Hi! In this video, I will show how simple it is to deploy a Kubernetes cluster in GCP using Terraform Cloud. I will then deploy Consul and Vault on the same cluster, and finally use Vault to generate dynamic secrets for my Postgres database. First step is you'll need to sign up to Terraform Cloud if you don't have an existing account. Terraform Cloud is hosted online that allows teams to use Terraform together. It is free for small teams, and there are paid plans as teams grow and need additional features such as audit logging and single sign-on. Once you have created an account, next step is to create a new organization. Okay, so here's the name of my organization, and so let's go ahead and create organization. Once you've done that, then the next step is to create a workspace. Think of a workspace as a way to manage your infrastructure. In this demo here, I'll have a workspace for my Kubernetes cluster in GCP, another workspace to deploy Consul, and another workspace to deploy Vault. I will also use run triggers that allows me to link my workspaces so that a successful apply in my Consul workspace, for example, will queue a run in my Vault workspace. When creating workspaces, you first need to define your version control workflow, and typically the most common method in getting your Terraform source code is from GitHub. What I've done is I've forked 3 repos from the HashiCorp tutorials, and so by doing so, I know that the source code is tested and validated to run successfully every single time. The only thing you need to do is change the variables to suit your environment, and I will show that later. Also, before you configure and run these workspaces, make sure you've created a project in your GCP account. You can see here I've got the same name as Hashi Kubernetes DB, and also the service account user. Make sure you assign the right roles for the service account, otherwise you'll get errors when Terraform Cloud executes the code. So here I am in my K8 workspace, and you see these are the variables that we need to enter. So the first thing is being the region, so the GCP region to deploy the cluster name itself, the Google Project ID, which is what we created earlier, the username for the Kubernetes cluster, the password, and in this instance we will enable Consul and Vault so that we can deploy Consul and Vault in the Kubernetes cluster as well. And then we also need to pass on our Google credentials to Terraform Cloud. Next, let's have a look and see what we need to put in the Consul workspace. So in the Consul workspace, these are the variables that we need to enter. So the release name, the namespace within the Kubernetes cluster, the Kubernetes cluster workspace name, the organization, and also our Google credentials. What we also need to do is under settings, we also need to include submodules on clone. What this means is that we'll reference a Helm chart to actually go ahead and deploy Consul. What we need to do is to enable run triggers. So in this instance, we need to select the K8's workspace run trigger. What this means is that once the K8's workspace has been successfully applied, it will automatically go ahead and queue the Consul workspace. Let's have a look and see what we need to put in the Vault workspace variables. So here we are in the Vault workspace, and you can see these are the variables that we need to put. So we need to enter the Consul workspace name, our Kubernetes cluster workspace name, the organization, and also our Google credentials. And same thing as in the Consul workspace, what we also need to do is under version control include submodules. So again, we'll reference a Helm chart to go ahead and deploy our Vault. And then lastly, what we also need to do is we also need to go to run triggers to select which workspace, and in this instance we'll select the Consul workspace to create the run trigger. Once that is done, let's go ahead and deploy this cluster. So I'm back at the K8's workspace, and on the right here you can see queue plan manually. So what we do is we'll hit queue plan. And basically Terraform will plan the resources, so we'll look at the configuration and to see what needs to be created. Once everything's all okay, it will ask us for confirmation, and you can also see that a run will be triggered, so the console will be triggered, or the console workspace I should say will be triggered after this run has been successfully applied. So let's go hit confirm and apply. Okay, let's give it some time for it to finish. So right now, it's actually going to go ahead and build the Kubernetes cluster in my GCP account. So let's give it a few minutes for it to finish. Okay, now that the apply has finished, you should also see that under here, run triggers, one run is queued. So if I jump into my console workspace, we should automatically see that it'll ask me to confirm and apply. So let's have a look. So on my console workspace, you can see here that it needs confirmation. So the queue was queued automatically by the Cade's workspace. Plan was finished. So if I go ahead and hit confirm and apply, this will deploy console onto the cluster itself using the Helm provider. Let's give it a few minutes for it to finish. Alright, and there you go. And again, as you can see here, run triggers, so one run has queued, so that means if I jump into my Vault workspace, we should see the same thing. So let's go over there and have a look. Okay, so here we are in the Vault workspace, and as you can see, again, it's being queued automatically by the console workspace. So let's scroll down and hit confirm and apply. And basically what's going to happen now is we'll go ahead and deploy Vault onto the cluster, again using Helm, and we'll also configure Console as the backend. So let's go ahead and give it a few minutes for it to finish. Alright, now that that is done, let's go to the GCP console and let's have a look and see how our cluster looks like after everything has been deployed